The Wetlands Board. Agenda to go over tonight. The agenda is available for anyone who should get a copy of the agenda. Very good. Catherine Turman, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, 1 second. Here, let me just pull up myself. So starting with membership. Mike Wilbur,
Present.
Campbell,
Present.
Kramer,
Present.
Alan Collins,
Present.
Dean Costello,
Present.
Ken Larkin, all from current members.
All right. Do we have a quorum?
Yes.
All right. Have a quorum. I'd like to begin by welcoming our guests. Can you tell us who you are and where you're from?
Virginia. I'm here to represent Troop 1344 Scouts. I'm doing the communication programs.
Very good. Thank you. We do have a public comment section towards the end, and you can speak on the record if you'd like. All right. Okay, so our first item on the agenda is to discuss living shoreline goals. And I'd like to report that I personally met with my supervisor appointee, Parity, on this subject. He's given me some guidance for things that he would like us to consider. I've also communicated back and forth and had 2 meetings with Land Development Services and with the Department of Planning and Development. And with respect to that, we have discussed this list of action items that I think you all have. Is that correct? Everybody have a copy of this? Yes, right. And I'd just like to briefly go through these to kind of elucidate the kinds of discussions that we've been having and where things are going. So first of all, let me start at the end where we are at the moment. Both the directors of LDS and planning have indicated that they are generally supportive of what we're trying to do. They want to go through this list in detail and see what kinds of things they can formally respond to. So I don't have a formal response from them as yet, but I can tell you kind of the tenor of the way things have been going. So the first item is this request for LDS and planning to actually promote living shorelines. You will recall earlier this year, the Wetlands Board voted to make one of their goals to actually promote living shorelines, not simply react. We're trying to actually promote them. And the both directors indicate that they were in favor of promoting the idea of living shorelines. However, I think it's important to understand that their role in this area is pretty much strongly over in the area of compliance. They're willing to do some things to try to help with promotion, but at their base, they're really trying to get various entities, developers, homeowners to comply with the law. And promotion is not something that is deeply within their bailiwick. So I'll get back to that in a moment. A unified checklist. LDS is supportive of that idea. There was some concern about how that could get pretty complex and there may be changes in how things might be done, but that did seem to be something worthwhile. You know, for example, we have a potential permittee, and actually they actually apply, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so we have a permit application where the permittee is proceeding in a way that he clearly does not realize the many other permits that he needs to get. This is a location where he's going to build a 200-foot bulkhead, or wants to. And I don't think he realizes that he's got to get a PE to design the bulkhead for him. that a contractor, I think, is leading him to believe that that's the case. I haven't really spoken to them, but this is one of those things where, you know, an entity comes to us, they think they're going to get this permit from us. We tell them that you have to get all these other permits, but that doesn't mean that they really know what they're doing. So I think a unified checklist is something that we really can support and get help in doing. We asked them about doing ordinance review, you know, try to find places where there is flexibility. That seemed to be a little more difficult for them, but, you know, they haven't said no to that item yet. The unified permit application, you know, where there is just one permit that comes through the Wetlands Board, it ends up going to LDS and other departments. They're struggling with that as well, but I think we may be able to do some things. If we can't get them to do a unified permit, we may be able to effectively do the same thing. But they're working on trying to find a way that that could be done. Permit Writer's Guide, that did have some support. I did ask for better training, particularly for Catherine in the area of being able to identify plants and be able to do some of the things that VIMS does for us. And also to have some more permitting assistance. The permits right now are drafted by the planning folks, but they don't write many permits. LDS does 60,000 permits a year. So they're highly experienced at doing that, and having some of the expertise from LDS passed on to us, I think would be a useful thing to have. Just by way of example, there have been some enforcement things we haven't been able to proceed with because we didn't follow some of the kinds of procedures exactly as we could have. And I think, you know, getting them to assist in looking over our shoulder a little bit, I think would be quite helpful.
Are you thinking like in a review process? Are you thinking of, in essence, kind of like what you were saying a few seconds ago, an actual training exercise?
I think training and, you know, somebody to call upon to look this over and say, does this really do something? You know, the permit writers in LDS have a structure of people above them. Catherine doesn't have that. It's much more limited. Now, I'm not saying Catherine's really good at her job, she is, but it's a different thing to be a part of an institution that are doing things than doing it by yourself. Also, to be quite frank, I'm a little worried about transition. Catherine is the third permit writer staff person that we've had, and there was no ability to transfer any of the knowledge from the last permit writer to Catherine. It just wasn't feasible because she passed away. So I think having the LDS institution know a little bit more about what we do would be useful. Now, they haven't said yes or no to that yet, so it's just something on the table. I did ask, and we did discuss getting a consultant to do a model permit and potentially assist in the permit writer's guide. I will say that people from the stormwater divisions under Chris Harrington and the Department of Public Works attended one of our meetings and concurred with me that really staff can't do this. You need an outside consultant to do it. Just the attitude isn't there. The people that are in these departments, they're not the kind of people that can do that kind of work. They made an attempt to go do it. So we did have the support from Chris Harrington's shop. Planning is a little more skeptical of doing that, but I think we may have some support from DPWES, Department of Public Works, to assist in that matter. Not done yet.
Is there, how would it be funded?
I don't know if for the consultant, if Public Works would absolutely need funding. They have more flexibility in that area than other parts. They can't do assistance for one property, but they can do guidance and assistance for a range of properties or for just the common application of things. You know, take for example, the construction of of decks. There's a wonderful guidance document on the construction of decks. I mean, you pick up that document, you can walk through that thing and know exactly what you need to do. You can have a conversation with the contractor about, are you doing this, this, and this? So I think that I would like to go that route. I don't have an answer yet, but I'm not giving up. We'll come to money in a minute. Okay. Now, the rest of this is about outreach, property owner outreach, contractor outreach, mailings, a letter to industry, and coordination with the Soil Conservation District. So let me pull out of that the letter to industry. Are you all familiar with a letter to industry? You know what this is? Dean, do you? I mean, yeah, it's all.
I just think so. I don't know if it's necessarily this one.
Okay, so in Virginia, municipal corporations like Fairfax County occasionally see an issue with contractors. They're not aware of this law or that law, and they write a letter to industry saying, you need to understand that if you're going to do these kinds of projects, here's what you need to do. And here are your sources. So it's not a communication to the homeowners. It's a communication to the contractors. And I think this is a worthwhile thing to do because a lot of our problem has been contractors. And particularly, we have a problem with homeowners trying to do things and they have a contractor who, let's just say they're not really communicating to the homeowners everything they actually need to go through. So the rest of this has to do with outreach. And one of the things that we did discuss with LDS and with the Department of Planning was the potential to use the soil conservation folks for the outreach portion of this. I would say they were enthusiastic about this idea. They have to do a lot of coordination with them. They work cooperatively across projects. They help fund things for them, and they don't really want to do the outreach. They'd much rather have the soil conservation folks there. So me and Brian attended a meeting with them this morning and asked them, would you be willing to outreach for the Wetlands Board? Brian, take it away.
Sure. So Clyde had put together a slide deck to present our case to them, or our request, our ask, and he went over kind of the history of the laws, regulations, our charter we're charged with. Everything that you just heard, he recounted for them about what's the concept of, why we're coming to them. And he made the pitch, as you heard. Hey, we heard that you might be able to help us. And I think we heard some positive feedback. The chairperson he did highlight a few things. Notes that he indicated that the concerns were the time it would take, the time that it would take to make the commitment, and not really identifying what that commitment might be. But it's not something, they had some higher priority issues as of right now, but they weren't saying no. They were just saying, we want to continue the discussion. They would need available staff, available funding, to which Clyde responded, yes, I understand all of that. You can appreciate it. And that's why we'd like to advocate for that, either from the Wetlands Board or some of our other environmental advocacies to the Board of Supervisors. I think we heard from their own staff that said they have programs that already promotes living shorelines, so it wouldn't be a big lift from them as they saw it, but still there were some further discussions they would need to have. And then we even heard that they were the Northern Virginia Soil and Water Conservation Board. They are other soil and water conservation boards, districts that already do some kind of promotion of living shorelines, so that they could contact them for what are the do's and don'ts, what are the risks that they need to be concerned with, some lessons learned. So I think we walked away with some positivity that there's a path forward and that they didn't shut the door completely. It sounded like there were a lot of reservations to make any firm commitments other than to continue the communications. So anything else you'd like to add from that?
They want money before they would do it, which I think is perfectly reasonable. And I do think that they have a board and they have a staff. The staff is, I think, fairly comfortable with this ask. They've even had some tidal wetlands people come and ask them for advice already. That's been happening. What has not been happening is the grants that they have. They've not gotten grant requests for these tidal wetlands. And that may be just in part to us. Since 2020, I think the perception of the public has been, it's just not worth it. And it's dangerous to try to do something to go to the Wetlands Board. I think that our applications for living shorelines have been stymied. And we're not really equipped to do the outreach to correct that. And on top of this, we mentioned this, they have grants, 30 grand per living shoreline. It's a chunk of money. Yeah. So, and the staff, even their staff, told their board, yeah, we've seen these living shorelines for a small property be in the 25 to, what did he say? 25 to $80,000. So if you got a $30,000 grant, that's a lot of money. By the way, I forgot to tell you, pictures. About that, I'm sorry, do that there. All right, so that's where all that stands. Any questions about this from anyone? Next. I'd like to talk to you about your activities in talking to your supervisors about this outreach effort. The last couple of times we've met, we've talked about each of us going and talking to our respective supervisors who appointed us. Does anyone have anything to report on this? Didn't you send out some letters? Didn't some people do something? Did you get any response?
The supervisor's office said we support this, support the Wetlands Board and the work.
Okay, very good. Who's the Franconia rep?
I can tell you.
The one of you? You are. So the supervisor there, his name? Lust. Do you know him?
I've met him a couple times.
Can you go talk to him?
We've just been passing ships in the night kind of thing, so I've been trying.
Correct. Now, you're the at-large appointee, correct? So your guy is the chair. Steve, are you also Stork? You're also Stork, all right. So, I don't think we're quite there. I would like to get a response from LDS and planning on how much of this they're willing to do. But I think we are almost certainly going to ask the board to support having not only LDS and Public Works do all this, but more importantly, and ask for soil conservation to do the outreach.
I will throw something out there. I know my neighborhood had a meeting a couple weeks ago, and Dan Stork's office through the Mason Neck Citizens Association had a packet to hand out. I believe it had some wetlands information in there, not just title, but RPA also. But there was a lot of interest. I mean, it was voluntary to take the packets, but we had, I think, 80%, 90% of the people at the meeting were interested to take that. That might be a route worth considering, is getting some of these local groups, either citizens associations or otherwise, and just finding somebody who can take those packets to those meetings.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's the soil conservation people, because they have money that they can give out. So, an add-on subject here. Supervisor Harity pointed me. He is interested in supporting all of this, but he really would like it to extend to all of the RPA, especially the checklist items. And in talking a little to the soil conservation staff, they would love that to happen. But that's not the board. And that's a much bigger job. You know, LDS's outreach to the RPA is a once a year postcard. And it does help, but it's not like really doing true outreach. So what do you all think about that? Would you like this to remain only about living shorelines and the tidal wetlands, or should we be open to expanding this to all of the RPA?
I'm a little bit worried about diluting the message.
I am too, but you also get more support.
True.
You know, we sit here with 4 supervisors and one who really is there. If you do all the RPA, you get everybody.
I'm just concerned about living shorelines becoming basically just like, oh, by the way, towards the bottom of page 4.
I don't disagree with you a bit, but I tell you, I'm going to ask Harity about this question. And if you feel comfortable, I would suggest you ask your supervisors as well, how they feel about it. We don't have to make that decision right away, but I think the next step here, after we get a reaction from the directors, is going to be to ask for money.
I think on some level, when you approach this from the homeowner perspective, it is very difficult to keep in mind all the different messages that all the different groups want to share. I mean, when you fill out your mortgage paperwork, there's all these disclosures and what you need to know as a homeowner, and it's like 35 pages that nobody reads. And I think the reality is a homeowner has a problem. They want to solve it. And so they need to get a permit. They've got boxes they want to check and they want to know how to design it. It would be nice if there was unified messaging. Are you dealing with waterways? Okay, here are the things to keep in mind. If you're designing a bulkhead, here's who to go to and how to do this and the forms to fill out. And whether it's RPA or title, I think from the homeowner's perspective, there's a lot of value in keeping that unified.
I don't disagree. And there are elements throughout all of this that are trying to accomplish just that. Fairfax is a wonderful government institution, but it's big. And, you know, if you go to the city of Alexandria and try to deal with an issue like this, the people that you might have to deal with, they work across the hall from each other. In this case, there's a diaspora. And I don't think it's intentional. It's just the nature of being big. And it's hard to have the unified message that I think we are looking for. I don't really have any, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I do want to throw out there that in looking into RPA things, there was a RPA guide. I think it was written in 2003, and it was really hard to find, but it was exactly the kind of information I needed as a homeowner for what I was doing. I think more of those displayed more prominently all in one spot. Finding stuff on the Fairfax County website, having to dig through the different departments is very difficult, because I think the county is coming at this from the perspective of which department is this, but that's, again, not really how it's organized. I don't really have a solution for this. I'm just throwing this out there as you should keep in mind.
I think I said it at the beginning, but I want to say it once more. This initiative that we voted on is for the purpose of promoting living shorelines. And the reduction in regulatory burden, the speed that everybody's asking for. I'm personally pushing for this for people who want to do living shorelines. If you want to do a hardened shoreline, we're not going to make your life more difficult, but this really isn't designed for you. This is designed to try to get people to apply for living shorelines. We only have one application in the 4 years that it's been the law. That's just nuts. Okay. So additional actions planned. You're going to write a letter to the
Soil and Water Board.
correct. Why don't you describe what you're going to do there so you can get some consensus where it's all right to do this?
Right, so it's really, again, recapturing the takeaways from our discussion that we had with them. Some of the conversation, which I kind of kept out because I want to just keep it high level, but some of the conversations and concerns they had kind of steered away from what Clyde had just said, that our initiative is really to educate and promote living shorelines. So it's not like a telling the general public that they must do living shorelines, the requirement to do living shorelines. It's promote and educate people on the current laws, the regulations, and kind of what the need to know to hopefully avoid some of the enforcement and compliance issues that we've seen with some of the applications, right? So it's capturing that in a letter to say thank you for your time today, and just as a reminder, we're here to support, promote the science and the process for living shorelines and educate the public on the science and process. That's what the letter's gonna capture at a high level.
Is it worthwhile bringing in any of the state of Virginia requirements?
I'm sorry, ask that again.
Is it worthwhile discussing any of the state of Virginia requirements?
I would say no.
Okay.
I with LDS and planning, absolutely, because they are the people assisting with permitting. But I think there's a real division in labor here, and the chair of the board made clear that he's worried about risk. So I think my impression is that we would really like soil conservation people to be the promotion people, not the regulatory people.
Okay, I see what you said.
Yeah, and if you ask them to start getting into, so for example, one of the questions that they ask is a 404 permit required? And, you know, do they have to do that separately? And in a sense, the 404 is incorporated into the unified application that is made. But I'm not looking for the soil conservation people to address those questions.
Okay.
That I think it is something that's better left with whoever's going to end up writing the permits.
And the standpoint from where they were coming from was that they didn't want to promote something that another state and federal regulatory agency would then not approve, which again is probably just a fallacy or misconception of what we were really asking them to do. Is
I think it's a problem that is not really a problem.
Yeah.
Not all problems are worth solving. That's probably one of them.
Right.
You know, would they promote a living shoreline that the Wetlands Board would then turn around and say, no, you can't do that?
so then based on, just that question was where, following up, when I spoke to Clyde, I said we should just provide a letter to them to say, thank them for the time, and then remind them what our ask is, which is really just promote.
Is everyone all right with this? Do you want to vote or just consensus?
I think it's fine.
Okay, very good. Happy not to force you to record. Very good. Okay. Catherine, we're back to you. Status.
Before we want that, can we get a copy of that letter too, so we can socialize with our supervisors? Say, look, this is what we're supporting with.
Right. what I would recommend, doing is you follow the rules as I understand them. If you send a draft to Catherine,
Yeah.
Catherine can circulate it. You can have comments to Catherine before the letter goes, and those can be returned. You can't talk directly, but Catherine can share the comments that you provide. Right? And then the final certainly will go out to you. All right. You're on.
Okay. Moving on to the next agenda item is just slated for me to just give an update on some permits that have been routing. It's been a little quiet the past couple months. I've gotten a few inquiries and phone calls, questions from residents. So we may have some permits that may need a public hearing here later summer. It's also very hard for me to predict which property owners are going to keep moving forward on their submissions or resubmissions. Right now, we have 3 that I've seen for site visits and have provided initial comments to for applicants. So those are shown here. The yellow and purple are actually locations of residents that I showed at our last meeting, which it was at the end of January, where I've provided comments, reached out to check on the status, see if they had any follow-up questions, and I would say they're still working through it. So, which is completely understandable. So right now, I don't have any complete permit applications in which I need to move forward with scheduling a public hearing. But like I said, if I have a submission that comes in or a resubmission that comes in tomorrow that looks all clean and any property owner would like to have a public hearing, you may hear from me, set up a meeting within a month. So if you all are familiar with the process, sometimes it kind of comes out of the blue, but that's the way this goes. It's based on the residents' agenda and their schedule with their contractor. So
Did you do site visits on these?
yes, with the MRC.
Okay. See anything interesting?
The Red Star application is one that Clyde had referenced earlier, where it is an existing bulkhead that, I guess it depends on your definition of failing, but it has some small holes behind, like landward side of the bulkhead, so they want to replace the bulkhead. So there were 2 sets of comments provided, and ways in which they could address through their design replacement of a bulkhead. That is another indication, or there is an indication that there are tidal wetlands behind the bulkhead or landward of the bulkhead. So, but the area of that tidal wetlands area is relatively small. I would say 5 by 5 square foot area.
Let me fill in a few blanks. This is a 200-foot long bulkhead on the Potomac River with a long fetch. I have not physically been to the site. I asked to visit and the homeowner canceled. The pictures that have been taken and circulated to VIMS and to the MRC indicate that there is jurisdictional wetlands on the land side of the bulkhead. They're small, very small, but they're there. They do not appear to be vegetated, but they're there. And the applicant's contractor has told the applicant that they do not need a permit because it is his intention to replace the bulkhead in the exact location where it currently exists. So I did write the homeowner and tell them that it's been determined that you have jurisdictional wetlands. And that actually went to the MRC for discussion. So we're not standing on our own here. They confirmed, yes, these are jurisdictional wetlands. There's no doubt a permit is required. Now, whether or not you as the Wetlands Board would require them to put in the living shoreline, the fetch is extremely long. But they do have jurisdictional wetlands, so it would be within your purview to require elements of a living shoreline. But I do think this is also a case where it's possible that you could consider and potentially approve mitigation in lieu of elements of a living shoreline, just because it's very small. Now, we don't actually have the details of this. We don't have all the facts back and forth. They have not hired a professional engineer, which they will need to design the bulkhead. And their contractor is Brad Martin.
Got it.
Anything not factual there?
And just as a reminder, all of these permit applications are available on the VMRC permit search portal thing that they have. If anyone would benefit from links to these applications, I'm more than happy to send that out if that would be helpful for any of these. You know, and obviously VMRC collects all the input from the 3 state, federal, and local jurisdictions, you know, formal comments and post them on there. So if there's anything that you want to hear more about, want to see what's been communicated, there's always that public website where all this is.
I have a request that you surely can't do. Get the MRC to label those files. There can be 60 files. They're file number 86.5B, 87.4C.
Okay, now you're just talking crazy talk.
It's just,
I made challenge. Try to remember what you've already opened.
they have made it any more difficult. Anything else?
Jonathan.
I'm just curious, so I'm assuming the contractor here is licensed.
They do have a license in the state to operate business. They're registered with the state.
Isn't there an examination involved in getting that license to this work?
Thanks.
I thought for Class B and Class A, there was an examination. You would think it would validate their ability to perform the work.
Yeah.
Okay. Meeting minutes. Do we have minutes to approve?
We have meeting minutes from the last meeting in 2023 that we did not approve in the January meeting.
Is anyone here ready to move those minutes? To approve the minutes, we need a motion to approve. We need a second, we need discussion, and then a vote. Is anyone here prepared to move those minutes?
Just trying to make sure I have the right words in my head. I move to approve the meeting minutes, both of them, just one at a time.
Are you sure you want to do this? You know what's in those minutes? Are you ready to vote for them?
Good point.
You don't have to do this. I'm just asking.
Yeah, that would probably make sense. Never
Okay,
mind.
I recommend that we table this until the next meeting. And Catherine, I know it's an imposition, but please would you resend the minutes to the entire board? So when we show up for the meeting, including myself, that we are prepared to vote on them.
I will do a better job of
That's,
distributing.
no, we should have looked at them. We should have been ready. It's on the agenda. My bad, sorry. Okay. Public comment period. Sir, would you like to say anything? How about your compatriot?
I think this proves that it's very difficult to run a government. And we're just talking specifically about these issues, and you've named like 5 different departments that all have to have a touch. It's impressive, and why things do move slowly. I think this is a good example or something that you think everybody would be on the same page, and you can't. And then, of course, at the bottom of it all is money. So
We'll record that you
interesting.
indicated government is hard. Okay. Okay.
But before we move to that, I don't know if this is a proper discussion for next time. But just kind of going off of what we talked about earlier with the meeting scheduling. Would it be possible to discuss having a mailing list that people could subscribe to, or some other way to be notified of this? And would that be a matter we would discuss amongst ourselves, or would that be something that would need to go up the chain?
We have, just thinking out loud here, we have used mailing lists for hearings. I don't think we do a regular mailing for board meetings.
That's like an effective way to get the public involved and knowing what's going on and aware of it.
So let's discuss it. Is everybody in favor of this? I don't know if we can get staff to do it, but.
So what exactly is the intent?
So I know the MNCA, for instance, is quite interested in this. A lot of them are on the water. The idea would be to have a mailing list where when a meeting gets posted to the website, there's either an RSS feed or an email goes out, or just some notification that there's a meeting going on at such and such address. That the public involved gets aware of what's happening. It's free to us.
Is that difficult for individuals to monitor the Fairfax County website to keep an eye on scheduling like that?
Well, that's the current issue.
That's why it'd be.
And if you have an RSS feed or a mailing list, you pop in your inbox, your reader, or whatever else you get.
It's like how the board supervisor sends out like supervisors meeting minutes that you can sign up for that stuff, or you can unsign up if you get tired of it.
Your capacity for that.
I think so. I mean, need a month or 2 to figure out the IT component for it, but yeah, I mean, I think we do it for other like bodies or other organizations.
There's several ways to do it. You could have BPD develop a mailing list, but then they have to maintain it, figure out who's really interested. You could also ask the managerial districts, the supervisors, if they would like to do it. Because they have regular contact mailing lists.
Yeah.
And it might be as simple as notifying them that they can send this notice to their mailing list.
That was gonna be my suggestion, is just to utilize the supervisor's existing mailing list.
Because if we do a mailing list, it's gonna be just the property owners. And we have their emails? We don't. We don't.
Even so, it would be something that staff, as you pointed out, staff would have to manage it. So you'd be asking more staff.
I thought mailing lists, the ones I've seen, like an term for them, the ones I've seen are automated. Like you go to the website, you email the mailing list address, it subscribes you, and with every subscribed email, it'll have, email back to the unsubscribed and will remove you. There's no real staff involvement, the ones I've seen.
For county? Because
I haven't seen it in particular for county. I've seen it at government
yeah,
institutions.
like federal ones, like delivery.
And I'm sure there's a turnkey solution for this. If nothing else, an RSS feed is zero maintenance. Post to the website.
I was just thinking somebody has to activate that kind of stuff. I don't mean activate, I mean, do the.
Can you
carry something? We have a meeting in 2 weeks kind of thing.
Well, the update has to happen on the website to begin with. I'm sure there's some back end.
I'm gonna ask Tracy to look into this for us. I think it's a great idea. I like the automated feed because people can request it, but I also like telling each manager the Board of Supervisors office is to let them do it as well. My problem with them is they may want to put it in their newsletter and they're going to want a month, which we rarely have. But good suggestion. Right? Again, consensus, we don't need to vote on this, right? All right,
Right.
it's very good. All right. Okay, moving on, we're going to go to a closed session. And do this motion.
Can you wait 1 second?
Certainly.
I've already done something signing. Would you mind just signing the name
Oh,
here on the sign-in sheet?
thank you for coming.
You appreciate it. Thank you.
In open public session, please open the door. Anyone present may join us. Seeing no one, in accordance with Virginia Code Section 2.23712, I move that the Fairfax County Wetlands Board members certify that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed session was covered and heard, discussed, or considered in closed session.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are now back in open session. Does anyone have anything further they would like to discuss?
We need the next motion.
Which motion?
The motion authorizing the county attorney's office to take legal action.
Oh, okay, I thought we already did that. All right. I move that the county attorney take legal action against the owners of 10625 Green Drive, Lort, Virginia, and against Shoreline Service and Design LLC, all as discussed with the county attorney in closed session.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there any discussion?
No,
Okay,
no discussion.
no discussion on the motion.
Any discussion, ladies and gentlemen? There is no discussion.
Okay,
Let's do the vote again.
You seconded, right?
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Got me on Robert's rules. All right, anything else people would like to discuss with respect to the Wetlands Board business or anything else? Thank you. This has been a very interesting meeting. Mark, I appreciate you dealing with us late in the evening.
thanks, everyone.
Very good. Let me know how things go.